Hello Yu-Gi-Oh players and welcome to Yu-Gi-Oh! Business Casual. I'm your host, the RJB0. Today's subject, my new bestie, Pot of Dichotomy. So, in my opinion, Pot of Dichotomy is an extremely underused card that can bring back multiple decks that people previously believed to be dead. So today I'm going to first refute the three main points that people tend to use to argue that Pot of Dichotomy is never going to make much of an impact on the game, and then I'm going to give you guys a few examples of some decks that can use Pot of Dichotomy and how they can use it to bring back their game. So first off, people seem to be of the opinion that Pot of Dichotomy is going to make zero difference in the game. And I have to severely disagree. And the reason people argue about this, or the reason why people say this, is, well, there are a few of them. The first one is that it's just a nerfed version of Pot of Avarice, which nobody really ran anyway, and so it's never going to be very good. First of all, I don't know if you've been paying attention, nerfed versions of cards rarely disappear forever. For instance, I can give you two main examples. First off, Royal Oppression. It came out, it got banned, it got a nerfed version called Vanity's Emptiness. I don't know if you've ever heard of that card. I don't know, it's not like every frickin' deck in the format uses it now. How about Cold Wave? Oh, I don't know, they might have gotten a little totally unused card we call Trap Stun. And maybe, oh, I don't know, Dimension Fusion, which got banned ages ago and left behind its little brother, a totally unimpactful card we call Return from the Different Dimension. Do you see where I'm going with this? Yeah, so the argument that a nerfed version of an old card it doesn't float. And the other thing is people say that nobody used Pot of Avarice. I have to disagree because I don't know if you guys were around during the big plant synchro formats when Avarice was at 3. Friggin' everybody used it. Anyway, so the other two arguments people make are, first of all, the fact that it has to skip your battle phase. Have you ever seen Yu-Gi-Oh? Like, people assume that the battle phase is the only way that a deck can do anything. In Worlds last year, there were entire games where nobody dealt a single point of damage, and they won. So, like, there are tons of decks, and especially the decks that Pot of Avarice will be good in, which I'll give you guys some examples in a second. There are decks that don't need their battle phase to wreck you. Heck, for example, Fire Fist. I mean, to a degree, they rely on it to use Bear's effect, but, you know, put a Wolf Bark on the board and a Tiger King, and you're set up for next turn. Fire Fist is a bad example because they're never going to use Pot of Dichotomy, but you get the idea. Mermails don't need the battle phase to mess you up. And most of the decks that are most likely to use it can create huge setup and huge advantage without needing the battle phase. The other thing that they use is that it has to have 3 different types. And once again, for the decks that use this card, 3 different types are going to be in the grave so quickly. You wouldn't even believe it. So a lot of people use that argument as well in order to, and they compare it to the current format, where the majority of decks rely on one type of monster, that is usually Beast Warrior. So decks are unlikely to put enough different types in the graveyard in order to put Pot of Dichotomy into play. But that's totally ignoring the possibility of, I don't know, new cards coming out. Have you guys seen Wind-Ups? Wind-Ups are one of my examples that uses, I don't know, every single different card in their deck is a different type. Yeah, let's see, Rat is a Beast, Rabbit's a Beast Warrior, Magician is a Spellcaster, Shark is a, I believe it's a fish, and what's it called? Warrior is a warrior. So every single card in that, every single monster in that deck is a different type. Heck, they use Thunder King Ryo, and that's a thunder, and they use Maxi, and that's an insect. Like, they set up cards in their graveyard of different types so quickly. And Wind-Ups is one of my main examples of decks that could seriously benefit from the existence of Pot of Dichotomy, because once they set up, once they go through their plays, they've already got an easy 3 targets in the graveyard for Pot of Dichotomy, and they can even leave a Magician behind or something as a target for their rat, and still be able to put the Pot of Dichotomy on the board. And they're another one of those examples that doesn't need the battle phase to wreck you. They can go into Volcasaurus and take out monsters on your side of the field and deal serious damage. They used to be able to go into Shockmaster, but they can't do that anymore. They can put Tyrus on the board, they can put Adrius on the board. They can put a 2200 attack point Abyss Dweller on the board. Just wind-ups do not need the battle phase. Another good example, and this is one of my favorite examples, is Junk Doppel, the deck that I've been trying to make for ages. Pot of Dichotomy is a huge boon to the synchrocentric plant-based decks like, well, Junk Doppel isn't really plant-based, but you get the idea. Synchrocentric decks like, what's it called? Crane Plants and Junk Doppel, and even the various like full-on plant synchro decks that have been going around. Not so much, you know, things like Sylvan and Flower Princesses, but other than that, like heavy synchrocentric decks like Junk Doppel really gain a lot out of Pot of Dichotomy, because what you can do, take Junk Doppel as an example. So you've got an unknown synchron in your graveyard, you've got a Junk Synchron and a Doppel Warrior in your hand. So you summon the Junk Synchron, you go into the unknown Synchron from your grave, you summon the Doppel Warrior from your hand, and then you synchro with the Doppel Warrior and the Junk Synchron to put Librarian on the board, then synchro with the unknown Synchron and a Doppel token to get Formula. You draw 2, and you're already set up to reset your Librarian and your Formula along with your Junk Synchron back into your deck. You just made an entire play where you want +2, and then you set yourself up for a +1. So in Junk Doppel and other plant synchro decks, this card is easily live. You pretty much only have to make one play, like with Crane Crane. You can go Crane Crane into Dandelion into, I don't know, what's it called? Leviair. And then you've already set up 3 monsters of different types. I mean, you're probably not going to want to put your Dandelion back in, but to be fair, you're more likely to have more cards in your graveyard than not. And my final example are Chaos Agents, and specifically TG Agents, because that's another deck that just loads up the graveyard so fast. You've got Tour Guide, you've got Venus, which is going to put Xyz monsters on the board, so chances are you're going to have like a Fairy Rock Fiend in your graveyard, and you're all ready to go for Pot of Dichotomy. This card can, I don't know, set up your Hyperions again. You can put a Hyperion back in your deck. If you decide to go for the Venus play and you open with this card, you can just go for the 2 Shine Balls. And then when your Xyz monster, you know, starts attaching materials or goes to the grave, you can use the Pot of Dichotomy with, you know, your Veiler that you used or your Max C that you used or whatever. You can put it back in the deck, and you've already reset your Venus to play again if you want to put another Venus on the board. Or if your current Venus is still there, you can put another Xyz monster on the board basically for free with this card. So those are just a few examples of some decks that can really benefit from this card's existence. To a degree, TG Stun can as well, but they don't put monsters in the graveyard as quickly as the other decks do, but this does reset their plays, it gives you a plus. There are just tons of ways that you can use Pot of Dichotomy, and since it's at 3 still, it can be abused like heck. So I hope you guys liked this video. If you did, hit that thumbs up button. If you didn't, let me know in the comment section below. And of course, discuss what you guys think about Dichotomy. We'll come back. What decks are you guys going to use it for? And then you can, of course, subscribe for more decks discussion and general Yu-Gi-Oh! Shenanigans. Meanwhile, thank you guys for watching Yu-Gi-Oh! Business Casual. I'm your host, the RJB0, and I got a jet. See you guys.